안녕하세요. 오늘 날씨 진짜 좋네요. 뭔가 좀 새로운 걸 배우고 싶은 그런 기분 안 드세요?
네, 딱 그런 날씨인데요.
음,
마침 저희가 그 최근에 열렸던 비트코인 서울 2025 컨퍼런스 있잖아요.
네.
거기서 되게 흥미로운 세션 내용을 하나 가져왔습니다.
아, 그거요?
네, 혹시 현장에 못 가셨거나 아니면 그 내용 진짜 좋았는데 다시 듣고 싶다 하시는 분들께 딱일 거예요.
네, 맞아요. 그 음악가 백찬님 발표였죠? 도레미파솔라시도 그리고 비트코인.
맞습니다. 제목부터가 뭔가 끌리죠.
그렇죠. 비트코인을 음악의 그 기본 체계 있잖아요.
네.
도레미파솔라시도. 거기에 비유한 건데 이게 상당히 독특했어요.
네. 그러니까 비트코인을 뭐 단순 기술이나 자산 이렇게만 보지 말고 음악의 도레미파솔라시도처럼 뭔가 근본적인 시스템으로 봐야 한다? 이런 주장이었거든요.
시스템이라. 오늘 저희가 이 발표 핵심 내용을 좀 깊이 파헤쳐 볼까 합니다. 그리고 혹시 더 깊게 이해하고 싶으시면 저희가 참고한 관련 리포트가 있거든요. 그걸 먼저 읽어보시면 더 좋을 것 같아요.
네. 비트코인을 하나의 체계로 본다는 그 관점 자체가 좀 생각해 볼 거리를 던져주죠.
그럼 백찬님 그 평행이론 한번 따라가 볼까요?
좋습니다. 자, 백찬님은요, 먼저 그 음악의 도레미파솔라시도 음계 있잖아요.
네.
이걸 정립한 피타고라스.
피타고라스.
네. 그 사람이랑 비트코인을 창시한 사토시 나카모토. 이 둘을 비교하면서 이야기를 풀어나가요. 뭐랄까, 각자 자기 분야에서 새로운 원리, 방법, 어떤 체계를 만든 선구자다. 이런 공통점이 있다는 거죠.
여기서 되게 흥미로운 게 그 피타고라스가 대장간 망치 소리 듣고 조화롭네? 하면서 음악 이론을 만들었다는 얘기가 있잖아요. 네네, 그런 얘기가 있죠.
그것처럼 사토시 나카모토는 기존 금융 시스템의 문제점들, 뭐 예를 들면 꼭 중간에 누가 있어야 하고 수수료 비싸고 프라이버시 문제도 있고 이런 걸 해결하려고 P2P 전자화폐 시스템 원리를 만들어서 비트코인 백서에 담았다는 거예요. 개인 간에 직접 거래하는 거예요.
그러니까 백서를 일종의 설명서이자 설계도로 본 거네요. 핵심 이론이 담긴.
그렇죠. 백찬님은 딱 그렇게 이해했어요.
그럼 이론이 있으면 그걸 실제로 구현하는 도구가 필요할 텐데요. 음악에선 뭐 리코더나 피아노 같은 악기가 그 도레미 음계를 연주하잖아요.
네, 맞아요.
비트코인에서는 그럼 뭐가 도구일까요? 백찬님은 그 사토시가 백서랑 같이 공개한 비트코인 소프트웨어, 우리가 흔히 노드라고 부르는 거 있잖아요.
노드요.
네, 그 프로그램이 이 이론을 현시에서 돌리는 도구라고 설명을 해요. 이 노드가 네트워크 거래 기록을 다 검증하고 저장하는 역할을 하죠. 그리고 백자님 본인도 집에서 노드를 직접 운영하고 있다고 하시더라고요.
네, 그 부분도 인상 깊었어요. 그리고 더 나아가서 작곡가랑 비트코인 채굴자를 비교하는 것도 재밌었고요.
작곡가랑 채굴자요. 그건 어떤 비유죠?
그러니까 작곡가가 도레미파솔라시도라는 시스템 안에서 음악을 만들잖아요. 그리고 저작권료 같은 인센티브를 얻고.
그렇죠.
채굴자는 비트코인 시스템 안에서 새로운 블록, 거래 장부를 만드는 거죠. 그리고 그 보상으로 비트코인을 인센티브로 얻고요. 시스템 안에서 뭔가 가치를 만들고 보상을 받는다는 점에서 비슷하다는 거예요.
물론 뭐 창작이랑 수학적 과정은 다르지만 그 시스템 내 역할과 보상 구조가 비슷하다 이런 거군요.
네, 거기에 주목한 거죠.
마지막 비교는 노래랑 비트코인 자체였던 것 같아요. 근데 이건 좀 조심스럽게 얘기하셨죠?
네, 맞아요. 이건 좀 비유가 완벽하진 않을 수 있다고 하면서 그 마이클 세일러가 비트코인을 가치를 전달하는 디지털 에너지라고 했잖아요.
네, 유명한 말이죠.
거기에 착안해서 그럼 노래는 감정을 전달하는 음악적 에너지로 볼 수 있지 않을까 이런 아이디어를 던진 거예요. 비유 자체보다는 그 뒤에 숨은 메시지가 중요해 보였어요.
그 핵심 메시지라는 게 뭘까요?
그러니까 비트코인이 막 쏟아져 나오는 다른 알트코인들 있잖아요. 비트코인 이후에 나온 암호화폐들. 그런 개별 노래들 중 하나가 아니라는 거예요.
그게 아니다.
네. 오히려 음악의 도레미파솔라시도 음계처럼 비트코인 자체가 하나의 거대한 시스템, 어떤 기반 체계라는 거죠. 그래서 비트코인을 단순히 투자 자산으로만 보지 말고 더 근본적인 어떤 지식 체계로 이해해야 한다. 이런 메시지였어요.
와, 되게 거시적인 관점이네요.
그렇죠. 이런 관점을 가지면 뭐 비트코인의 장기적인 가치를 보거나 아니면 비트코인 중심의 어떤 화폐관을 갖는 데에 영향을 줄 수도 있겠죠.
듣고 보니 그러네요. Q&A 때 백찬님 개인 경험 이야기도 잠깐 나왔잖아요.
맞아요. 그 얘기도 했었죠.
처음엔 본인도 투자로 접근했는데 그 안드레아스 안토노플로스의 돈의 인터넷이라는 책을 읽고 확 바뀌었다고요. 마치 10대 때 음악에 처음 빠졌던 것처럼 세계관이 변하는 경험을 했다고.
네. 비트코인 공부하면서 세상을 보는 눈 자체가 넓어졌다는 이야기가 참 기억에 남아요. 단순히 돈 버는 수단이 아니라 뭔가 지적인 여정이었던 거죠.
자, 오늘 이렇게 백찬님의 비유를 통해서 비트코인을 한번 음악 시스템에 빗대어 봤습니다. 이걸 그냥 화폐나 기술, 이걸 넘어서 하나의 근본적인 시스템으로 바라보는 관점이었는데 당신은 어떻게 들으셨어요?
백찬님은 여기서 더 나아가서 뭐 숫자 0의 발견이라든지 아니면 훈민정음 창제 같은 거랑 비교하면서 비트코인이 어쩌면 인류 역사에서 되게 중요한 시스템적인 발명일 수도 있다. 이렇게까지 보더라고요.
와, 훈민정음까지요?
네, 여기서 이런 질문을 던져볼 수 있을 것 같아요. 당신이 잘 아는 다른 분야의 시스템 있잖아요. 뭐 과학 법칙이든 사회 구조든 그런 거랑 비트코인을 한번 비교해보면 거기서 또 어떤 새로운 통찰을 얻을 수 있을지 한번 생각해보는 것도 재밌을 것 같네요.
저는 개인적으로 좀 복잡할 수 있는 비트코인의 본질을 이렇게 창의적인 비유로 푸니까 되게 신선했어요. 덕분에 뭔가 딱딱한 기술 용어 너머의 의미를 생각해보게 된 것 같고요.
저도 그랬습니다. 이 비유 덕분에 비트코인의 좀 더 근본적인 역할이나 그 잠재력에 대해서 다시 한번 생각해보게 됐어요. 오늘 저희 나눈 이야기가 당신에게도 뭔가 새로운 관점을 더하는 그런 시간이 되었으면 좋겠습니다.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're taking a special look back, really diving into a highlight from Bitcoin Seoul 2025.
That's right. It was quite the event.
Absolutely. And look, if you couldn't make it to the conference, or maybe you were there, but things were hectic and you want to revisit a really standout session, well, this deep dive is definitely for you.
It's a chance to unpack some, frankly, surprising insights from a really creative, unexpected angle.
Exactly. We're focusing on one specific session that got a lot of buzz. It was from the musician Bake Chan, and his presentation was called Doremifasolasido and Bitcoin.
Yeah, it sounds a bit unusual, doesn't it? But he genuinely explored Bitcoin's value from, well, an artistic perspective. He managed to weave in these new ways of thinking about digital culture that felt really fresh.
I know. I found it totally fascinating because, who thinks of connecting music theory and, monetary systems?
Right. Okay.
So first, maybe for listeners who aren't familiar, who is Bake Chan? He's a pretty well-known singer and composer, right? Known for his group 8.
Yeah, exactly. Big K-pop group back in the day. They had huge hits like Heart Is Gone, Goodbye, My Love.
Stuff those lips, too, I think.
That one, too, yeah. And he had this great joke about himself, saying in his 20s he was a singer, 30s a composer.
And now his 40s are all about Bitcoin.
Pretty much. A
Yeah.
full-on Bitcoin life, as he put it. It kind of makes you pause and think, okay, why would a successful musician suddenly pivot so hard into Bitcoin?
It's a big shift.
It is. And his motivation, well, he explained it, was really about using his unique background, his musical way of thinking, to make Bitcoin's core ideas maybe a bit easier to understand for more people.
Sort of make it more accessible.
Exactly. And he seemed genuinely grateful for the Bitcoin Seoul conference itself. He mentioned how important it was for Korea to finally have an event like this. He'd actually traveled quite a bit before. Yeah, he said he went to the U.S. twice. Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, just to attend Bitcoin conferences because there wasn't anything similar locally.
Wow, that really underscores the significance of the Seoul event then, especially for the Korean community.
Definitely. And his commitment didn't just stop at the presentation. He actually planned a live performance for the end.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about this. His Bitcoin song.
That's the one, Way You Believe.
Hmm.
His big vision for it is for it to become this kind of global anthem for Bitcoiners.
Right.
We Are the World or
Or like Hanaduo here in Korea.
Precisely. And he wasn't doing it alone. He lined up some pretty interesting collaborators. Joo-hee from his old group 8.
Okay.
Vivian from the Life with Bitcoin podcast, some European educator named Mir, and Andrew from a Bitcoin group in the U.S.
So a real international effort. Fitting for Bitcoin, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But the real core of the session, the really fascinating part, was how he started laying out this parallel between the Do-Re-Mi musical scale and Bitcoin itself.
It's quite a framework.
It really is. He kicked things off right at the beginning, didn't he? Talking about the pioneers.
He did. So for music, he pointed to Pythagoras, the triangle guy.
Yeah, from math class.
Right, but apparently he did a lot with music, too. He figured out the sort of natural physical laws behind sound, like specific ratios between lengths of string. 1.2 gives you an octave, 2.3 gives you a perfect fifth. These create harmony.
Okay, so the mathematical basis of music.
Exactly. And he documented these principles. So Baek-chan draws this direct line to Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin's creator. He argued that both of them, Pythagoras and Satoshi, they didn't just invent something casually. They discovered and then presented these fundamental principles, these systems that weren't really known or written down before.
Ah, so it's about uncovering something fundamental, like
Yep.
finding the rules of the game, not just making up a new game.
That's a great way to put it. And following that discovery, Baek-chan moved to the next step, the core documents that lay it all out.
Okay.
So Pythagoras had his documented findings on sound and harmony. And Satoshi gave us the Bitcoin white paper.
A peer-to-peer electronic cash system.
The very one. And that paper, it wasn't just, a suggestion. It laid out everything. The cryptography, the math, the economics, the game theory. Basically, the rules for how this whole system works without needing a central bank or controller.
It's the instruction manual.
It really is. A comprehensive blueprint for a totally new kind of money system.
Okay, so you have the discovery, the foundational idea, and then you have the blueprint, the white paper. But theory is one thing. You need the tools to actually make it work, right?
Right.
How did he connect that? What are Bitcoin's instruments?
Yeah, exactly. So for Doremi, you need instruments. Pianos, guitars, recorders, whatever. These things are built to play those notes. They implement the system. They can't really produce notes outside that scale, you see.
Got it.
The parallel he drew was to Bitcoin software and, specifically, Bitcoin nodes. Satoshi didn't just drop the white paper and vanish. Well, he did vanish later, but first, he released the actual software. Version 0.1.0, that came out in January 2009, just a few months after the October 2008 paper.
So almost immediately.
Pretty much. And ever since, core developers have kept working on it, updating it. We're up to version 29 now, I think. And Baek-chan even mentioned he runs his own node.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, one of those computers validating transactions, keeping the network secure. It shows he's not just talking about it, he's actively participating in making the system work. He's playing the instrument, so to speak.
That's a really neat comparison. The software is the instrument. Okay, so we have the pioneers, the blueprint, the tools. What about the people actually creating things within these systems? The musicians, well, what's the Bitcoin equivalent?
Good question. He likened composers who use the Do-Re-Mi system to write songs and earn royalties.
Okay.
He likened them to Bitcoin miners. The miners are the ones creating new blocks, adding transactions to the ledger, and just like the white paper outlines, they get rewarded, they earn incentives for doing that work.
So they're the workers or creators producing new value within the system's rules.
Precisely. Both are generating something new, music or validated blocks, using the established framework and getting compensated for it.
Okay, this is sitting together surprisingly well. What about the final piece? You talked about the output, right? The energy. That felt a bit more abstract.
It was, yeah, and he kind of acknowledged it, saying this part was maybe a bit more personal, perhaps a little stretched, as he put it.
Okay.
But his idea was that a song fundamentally transmits emotion, musical energy, he called it. And he connected that to how people like Michael Saylor talk about Bitcoin transmitting value, digital energy.
So music moves emotion, Bitcoin moves value. Both are about transferring a form of energy.
That was the core idea. Like I said, maybe a bit philosophical, but it does highlight the fundamental purpose of each system enabling a specific kind of transfer.
It's definitely creative. And it leads to his bigger point, doesn't it? What he wanted people to take away from all these parallels. He sort of turned it back to the audience at that point.
He did. He basically said, look, maybe you can do this too. Think about your area of expertise, your domain knowledge. Are there systems or principles in your field that you could map onto Bitcoin? It's an invitation to think differently.
Yeah, find your own analogies. And that really feeds into his core argument about how we should view Bitcoin itself, right? Moving beyond just the price tag.
Absolutely. That felt like a really critical message he wanted to land. Stop seeing Bitcoin only as an investment, only looking at the price chart. He kept saying Bitcoin is a knowledge system. It's a system in and of itself.
The coin is just one part of it.
Exactly. The unit, the Bitcoin, is just an element within the larger Bitcoin system. He felt that focusing only on price makes us treat it like just another stock or asset to flip, missing the bigger picture.
Right. And this is where his analogy really becomes powerful, I think. He argued that seeing it as a system helps you understand its long-term value, maybe even adopt what he called a Bitcoin standard worldview. That sounds significant.
It is. He put it very directly. Bitcoin is Doremifasolasido itself. And then he contrasted that with altcoins, other cryptocurrencies. He described them as being like individual songs.
Oh.
Some songs are hits, they get popular for a while, others just fade away. But all of them, hits or misses, are composed using the underlying Doremi system.
So Bitcoin isn't just the biggest hit song.
Exactly. It's not just the most successful currency out there. It's the fundamental scale, the system, the musical language that even makes those other songs possible in the first place. It enables a whole new kind of monetary composition, you could say.
It's the foundation for a new era of money, not just a participant in the old one.
That's precisely his point. He even mentioned reading Andreas Antonopoulos' book, The Internet of Money, and how it gave him this huge aha moment, just like when he discovered music theory as a teenager. It clicked for him that Bitcoin wasn't just tech or money, it was a whole worldview.
That connection, finding that same intellectual spark in both music and Bitcoin, is really telling. Did he mention other examples of these foundational systems?
He did, briefly. He brought up things like the discovery or maybe invention of zero in mathematics, how crucial that was.
Oh yeah, fundamental.
Or King Sejong creating Hunminjeongeum, the Korean alphabet. These weren't just small improvements, they were paradigm shifts. They fundamentally changed how people could think, communicate, calculate.
And he sees Bitcoin's potential impact on money as being on that same level?
That seemed to be the implication, yes. A foundational shift.
Wow. Okay, that was quite a journey through music theory and Bitcoin. A really, really insightful exploration. I have to say, I just appreciated his unique angle so much, taking something artistic to explain something so technical.
It definitely cuts through the usual jargon.
It really does. It just offered such a fresh way to look at it all. So thinking about his whole analogy, what's the biggest thing that stands out to you? What's the core takeaway from seeing Bitcoin as the Doremi?
For me, I think it's that framing. Bitcoin not just as a currency, but as the fundamental scale, the Doremi, for a whole new way of thinking about money and value transfer. That really changes how you view its potential long-term significance.
Yeah, it pushes you past just the day-to-day price moves.
Exactly. It makes you think more deeply about what makes something truly foundational versus just, another application or another song.
Mm-hmm. And I really loved his invitation to the audience. Find these parallels in your own work, your own life. It suddenly makes Bitcoin feel less intimidating, maybe. More like something you can grasp through the lens of what you already know.
Yeah, it democratizes the understanding a bit, like a masterclass in connecting different worlds.
Totally. So it leaves us with a pretty big thought, doesn't it? If Baek Chan is right, if Bitcoin is this new Doremi for money, what kind of music is going to be written with it? What kinds of financial innovations? What kinds of changes in society? What will that music sound like in the years and decades ahead? Something to ponder.
Definitely something to think about.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this slightly different deep dive today, revisiting that unique session from Bitcoin Seoul 2025. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.